it's all fine that we can milk cows with robots. They're doing it all around the world, but most of the cows are housed indoors. So there's only a handful of people that are doing it in a well-utilised pasture-based system. So one of our key things is about, can we still maintain good pasture utilisation when we've got cows volunteering themselves?
That question, and many others, is exactly what a major Australian research project is trying to answer, as farmers face a future with more competition for labour, water and land.
And that's really, if you like, formed the three modules of FutureDairy. Two of those modules relate to the water and land. The first one is the forages module, where we're trying to grow more forage, and our aim is 40 tonnes of dry matter per hectare, which is more than 5.5 times the average pasture production. The second one is where we're trying to bring in more feed onto the farm to try and build up enterprise size and the best way to use that. And the third one is the innovations module, where we're trying to get innovations that either reduce labour or allow us to more precisely manage agriculture, if you like, without increasing labour.
And that's where the automated milking systems research comes in. For the past 4 years, Farm Systems researcher Dr. Kendra Davis has been working with pastures and automated milking equipment in New Zealand. Now she's working with the most advanced system to date in Australia.
That technology has really been designed for European systems, and we're looking to see if we can use it in Australia and develop a system whereby we have voluntary cow traffic distributed throughout the day and night, but that still allows us to utilise our pasture and have the benefits of labour and lifestyle that we'd hope might go along with that. The key differences that we have to manage in that change is that we have to give the cows incentives to move around the system for us. We're not milking the cows, so we don't want to be fetching the cows either. So we have to put incentives in place. If we put cows in a paddock with plenty of grass, water, shade, realistically the majority of them are not going to come up and get milked. In this system we're using a number of incentives to generate cow traffic. One is that we'll give cows a fresh break of grass a number of times a day, either once or twice or three, depending on how we set up the system. So what happens is, to get to the fresh break of grass, the cows have to come up through the smart gates, and at that point they're either sent to the dairy if they're due for a milking, or returned back to pasture and off to the fresh break of pasture if they've already been milked. And as well as that, when the cows present themselves in the machine here, they get an allowance of concentrate to encourage good flow into the machine. And then at different times of the year and different times of the day, depending on how we're running the system, we also give cows the incentive to come from the machine out into the feed pad with an allowance in the feed pad. To give cows the incentive to come back out to the paddock, there's no real loafing area in the dairy, so they come back out to the paddock for loafing and to some extent to access water, although we sometimes give them water in the dairy as well.
The researchers are observing two separate herds, each with its own paddocks, feed pad and automated milking system. One herd is being managed so as the cows produce around 6,000 litres each per lactation, grazing on pasture with just a little supplementation. With the other herd, the researchers are replicating a much more intensively fed system with high levels of supplementation and a target of 9,000 litres per cow. The two systems were chosen because they're both reasonably common, but each has different challenges, particularly with the use of feed incentives to get the cows to come up for milking at the optimal frequency. Importantly, Kendra says the cows in the trial are just normal cattle.
We've got everything between heifers and 13-year-old cows that have adapted really well to the system. Initially we brought 110 cows over, and all 110 stayed in the system. Some of them have been dried off now, ready to calve back in. And there's some for confirmation reasons that aren't ideal, but we're going to wait and see what they calve back in like, because they're quite extended lactation. So extremely impressed with the function of the machines themselves and just how well the cows have picked it up. Because we're not here milking the cows ourselves, we have to monitor it, and we have to use all the indications to tell us that the system is working well or that it's not, because as conditions change, environmental conditions and the feed allowances and all those things change, then the cows will respond differently and either increase their milkings or decrease them, or their yield will go up or down. It gives us reports that we need to be giving attention on a daily or weekly basis. So, and we can use them however we like to suit our system, but this tells us what cow's milk has been automatically or manually dumped or diverted in the last 24 hours. So they will have been mastitis cows that we've treated. Hello, girl. We can continuously fetch cows and get 3 milkings a day out of them, but at the end of the day it's a voluntary system, and the more we fetch cows, the more reliant they become, and they wait for us to fetch them. So we have to leave them to it and just have faith in the system and have faith in the cows that they're going to do it for us. And I mean, we're still, this system is only just up and running, but it's running very nicely.
It's mid-July and the cows have been moving around the farm voluntarily for a couple of months, coming up to the automatic milking machines when they want.
In my previous experience, training cows has always been somewhat of an issue, quite labour intensive. We've just trained 110 cows to the dairy here, and we did that over a 1 month period, and then since then we've brought another 8 or so cows in, and we've got a really nice system here. The dairy layout generates really good cow flow, and the incentives that we have in place have really helped the cows to adapt very quickly and to pick up the concept extremely quickly, and the intensity of the training has been really low. We've been hugely impressed with it.
But this is only the start. It's a long-term project which initially aims to develop whole farm systems based on cows moving around pasture-based farms by themselves, and still being easily monitored and getting fresh feed and being milked when they should be. But that's only part of it. The machinery manufacturers, De Laval, also want to build a much faster automated milking system, designed specifically for Australia's pasture-based farms.
We can't talk obviously about the design of the machine, because there's a lot of IP around that and patents to be worked out, but the key things about the new concept is that it is going to be automated. It will still rely on voluntary cow traffic and distributed milkings, but we should be able to milk a lot more cows in the order of hundreds as opposed to 50, 60, 80 cows per machine. If all goes well, hopefully by 2010 we might be looking at something available to the commercial market.
That's a way off yet. What's really got to be proven is the viability of using incentives to get cows to voluntarily move around the farm throughout their lactation.
3 or 4 years ago, the idea of cows walking off pasture, taking themselves to the dairy and milking themselves, was really thought to be unfeasible. Like, the designers of the equipment just didn't think it was doable. Now we've seen a commercial farmer in Victoria that's doing it, and we also know of that in New Zealand there's a research farm there doing it. So the concept is somewhat, we know that cows will do it now, but it's really about working out whether it's actually feasible and that it's going to address the issues that they are looking to address. Like, does it really generate a better lifestyle or a nicer working environment? Does it reduce labour or not? Because there's no point in farmers heading down this track if they're going to invest a lot of money in something that's just not going to work for them. So it's about making sure that it is feasible and sustainable for them.